In the dry, wind-blasted plains of Presidio County, Texas, near the Mexican border, farmers are used to harsh conditions: drought, dust, and the occasional run-in with border smugglers. But nothing in local history compared to the legend of Ray "Rusty" Granger, a soft-spoken 58-year-old cattleman who, in 2017, pulled off the unthinkable. He stole $6 million in cartel money, walked away without a trace, and hasn't been seen since. Not by the FBI, not by the DEA, and certainly not by the Mexican cartel that wants him dead. Rusty Granger wasn't anyone special. He was the type of man you'd ignore at a feed store, wore the same sun-faded Wranglers every week, drove a battered 1999 Ford Super Duty. Folks in Presidio just thought of him as a solitary old rancher with too much land, too few cattle, and too many debts. But what no one realized was that Rusty had once been a U.S. Army signals intelligence tech during the Gulf War. Fluent in Spanish, expert in encryption, trained in surveillance. He left the Army in 1992 and used his mustering-out pay to buy a small patch of desert near Candelaria, Texas, a blink-and-you-miss-it town just miles from the Mexican border. There, he lived simply, too simply, which is why no one suspected what he was really doing. By 2015, the Sinaloa Cartel had been quietly using parts of Presidio County as a narco highway. Drones, dirt bikes, and corrupted ranch hands helped funnel fentanyl and meth across the Rio Grande in bulk. Hidden in hay bales, cattle trucks, and even farm equipment, the drugs moved north, fast and undetected. Rusty, who lived less than a mile from a cartel stash route, began noticing strange patterns. Motion sensor lights tripping at odd hours, tire tracks that weren't his, drone shadows passing overhead at night. He didn't call the cops. He took notes. Using old Army surveillance gear, repurposed signal boosters, a police scanner, and hacked thermal cams, Rusty mapped cartel traffic over 18 months. He recorded license plates, radio chatter, even the stash spots in dry arroyos behind neighboring ranches. But the real prize came in early 2017, when he intercepted encrypted chatter about a massive cash drop being staged on U.S. soil. $6 million in laundered currency temporarily parked in a buried shipping container under a false cattle barn near the border. It was supposed to sit there for 48 hours before pickup. Rusty had other plans. On the night of June 12, 2017, under a moonless sky, Rusty rolled out with a stolen Bobcat loader, night vision goggles, and bolt cutters. He cut through the perimeter fencing of the decoy barn and went to work. The coordinates he had intercepted were spot on. Just 6 feet down, his loader clanged against steel. A shipping container, sealed, locked, and packed with duffel bags, each filled with shrink-wrapped stacks of U.S. hundreds. Untraceable, clean. He loaded everything into a cattle trailer, covered it with hay, and drove it back to his property by dawn. 2 hours later, a cartel pickup crew arrived to find an empty pit, and within 3 hours, 2 of their scouts were found dead, shot execution style. The cartel thought it was a rival gang. They had no idea it was an old Texas farmer with a grudge and a surveillance rig made out of spare parts and duct tape. Rusty knew they'd come looking, so he vanished before they could. He left the cattle roaming, left his old truck in town, even left half a pot of coffee steaming on the stove. A local deputy who stopped by that week thought Rusty had simply wandered off drunk, but by the time the feds got involved, it was too late. Rusty had melted into the desert like a ghost. When the FBI got wind of the missing cartel money via a DEA wiretap, they assumed it was an internal rip, cartel-on-cartel violence. But things didn't add up. No rival crew took credit, and strange radio signal patterns in Presidio County pointed to something else, someone watching the cartel. By the time they visited Rusty's ranch, it had already been stripped clean of evidence. No surveillance gear, no cash, just an old barn, a few scattered cattle, and a note taped to the inside of a feed bin. If you're reading this, I've already won. Don't bother looking. RG. The FBI opened a case file. The cartel opened a bounty. $500,000 for Rusty's head, dead or alive. Theories are endless. Some believe Rusty escaped to New Zealand, where small farming communities make it easy to disappear. Others swear he's living on a self-sustaining off-grid compound in Oregon, trading cryptocurrency for supplies. One popular theory claims he's hiding in northern Mexico, protected by a rival cartel he once helped anonymously tip off to a DEA raid. But the most chilling rumor comes from a retired DEA agent, who said he found a discarded sat phone in the desert months after the heist. It had only one message stored on it, never sent. They took my brother in '98. I just evened the score. No one knew Rusty had a brother, but border records from 1998 show that a man named Eli Granger, a truck driver from Midland, was murdered in Ciudad Juarez, found shot and burned in a stolen rig after a suspected drug deal gone wrong. That case was never solved. The Sinaloa Cartel lost face. They executed 3 of their own logistics coordinators in retaliation. A dozen smuggling routes were shut down. Word spread quickly. The desert wasn't as secure as they thought. Meanwhile, the FBI quietly buried the case. No press release, no photos, no reward. Why? Because to admit that a lone U.S. citizen stole $6 million from the most powerful drug cartel in the Western Hemisphere, under their noses, would be a national embarrassment. Locals in Presidio still whisper about it. Occasionally, someone claims to see an old man in a diner in Arizona, paying cash and tipping too well. Or they say a survivalist ranch in Utah once bought 800 pounds of cattle feed, under a fake name. But every time law enforcement follows the trail, it dries up, like smoke. In April 2024, a strange encrypted message was posted to a defunct military signal board used by former U.S. Army SIGINT personnel. Texas is hot, but the mountains are quiet. You can hear your heartbeat out here. I think I'll stay a while. It was signed using a cipher known only to a specific Gulf War-era unit. Analysts traced the IP to a node in Patagonia. A follow-up trace turned up nothing. Rusty Granger has become an urban legend. Reddit threads speculate about his tactics. YouTube creators break down the heist step by step. Some call him the Rancher Robin Hood, while others believe he was just a bitter old man with a grudge and nothing to lose. But one thing is certain. No one, not the FBI, not the DEA, not even the Mexican cartel, has ever found him. And $6 million, it's still missing. In the summer of 2025, a backpacker claimed to have met a man in the Andes who spoke fluent Spanish with a Texas drawl, lived alone in a cabin above 10,000 feet, and had a satellite dish powered by a windmill. Said he used to work in cattle, but now just watches the skies. The hiker never got his name. But as he left, the man handed him a bottle of homemade whiskey and said, "If you ever pass through Texas, tell him Rusty says hey."